Your U.S. immigration case could be approved today and denied tomorrow, even with the same facts. From subjective discretion to new anti-Americanism screenings to expanded sponsor risks, the rules are shifting fast, and outcomes may surprise you. This is Immiscope, your trusted source for U.S. immigration news, policy changes, and visa updates. USCIS and DHS have recently rolled out and reinforced policies that are reshaping the immigration landscape. These changes aren't always about new laws. Instead, they often come down to how officers interpret and enforce existing rules. That means two people with very similar cases could end up with very different outcomes. And today, we're covering 5 updates you need to know, updates that touch on discretion, TPS relief, anti-Americanism, checks, good moral character standards, and financial risks for sponsors. Let's break them down. Discretion guidelines, decisions get more subjective. One of the most important shifts is in discretion. Immigration officers are now given broader authority to decide who qualifies, who gets approved, and who gets denied. This isn't new, discretion has always played a role, but in recent months, USCIS has emphasized that officers should look at the totality of the case. That sounds fair, but here's the catch: it also means outcomes depend heavily on the specific officer reviewing your file. One officer might view a minor tax filing delay as forgivable. Another could treat it as a red flag. One officer might interpret a past visa overstay with leniency. Another might say it shows bad faith. This shift increases uncertainty for applicants. Even with strong documentation, there's more room for subjective judgment. For immigrants and attorneys, this means preparation matters more than ever. Every detail could tilt the balance. TPS extension, relief for Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua. There's also some good news in the middle of all these tougher policies. Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, has been officially extended for nationals of Honduras, Nepal, and Nicaragua. This update provides immediate relief for tens of thousands of people who are already living and working legally in the U.S. under TPS. It means they will not face a sudden loss of work authorization or an unexpected risk of deportation in the short term. For communities tied to these countries, this extension is huge. TPS renewals have often come in uncertain, last-minute cycles, leaving families unsure if they'd be forced to uproot their lives. Now, there's at least a measure of stability, at least for the duration of this extension. But it's important to remember, TPS is not permanent residency. Holders remain in a temporary category, and they must continue to explore long-term solutions such as family petitions, asylum, or employment-based pathways if eligible. What it provides now: continued work permits, protection from deportation, and temporary stability. What it does not provide: a green card, permanent residency, or a guaranteed path to citizenship. What TPS holders should consider: alternative immigration strategies to secure long-term legal status. That's why this update matters even if you're not directly affected. It's a reminder that TPS is always temporary by design, and long-term planning is essential. Anti-Americanism screening, new red flags. Perhaps the most controversial development right now is the rise of what's being called anti-Americanism screening. Immigration officers are now instructed to pay much closer attention to public statements, activism, and especially social media posts. That means what you say online is no longer just opinion, it can directly affect your immigration journey. Posts criticizing the U.S. government, calling for protests, or even engaging in heated political debates could now be flagged as concerning. This trend raises serious cultural and legal questions. Where exactly is the line between free expression and disqualifying behavior? For visa applicants and green card hopefuls, it means online behavior is effectively becoming part of your immigration record. A tweet criticizing U.S. policy could be interpreted as hostility. A Facebook post supporting protests might raise concerns about anti-American views. A viral TikTok that appears mocking or aggressive could be flagged in your file. And this isn't hypothetical. It's already been cited in real cases where applicants were questioned, delayed, or even denied based on perceived hostility to U.S. values. For many immigrants, this is frightening because it blurs the boundary between free speech and immigration risk. What was once a private opinion or political statement now becomes evidence in an officer's decision-making process. The message is clear: in today's climate, what you post online doesn't just stay online. It may directly affect your eligibility for a visa, a green card, or even future citizenship. Good moral character, naturalization becomes more personal. The concept of good moral character has always been part of the naturalization process. But in practice, it used to be fairly procedural, based on clean criminal records and certain straightforward checks. Now, USCIS is expanding how it evaluates moral character. It's becoming more values-based, more subjective. Things like unpaid child support, DUI arrests, or even certain financial missteps can now weigh heavily against you. For many, this makes the process feel less like a checklist and more like a judgment call on personal behavior. On one hand, it ensures that new citizens reflect certain standards. On the other, it opens the door to inconsistent decisions. If you're planning to naturalize, the takeaway is simple: every detail of your record matters, not just the big legal ones. Fraud warnings and sponsor liability, risk reminders. Finally, USCIS is re-emphasizing fraud detection and sponsor accountability. Sponsors must now be reminded that they carry real legal and financial responsibility for the immigrants they support. This includes repayment obligations if the immigrant receives public benefits. Fraud warnings are also being issued more prominently. USCIS is cracking down on sham marriages, fake job offers, and falsified documents. Even small inconsistencies in paperwork can now trigger fraud suspicion. For sponsors and applicants, this is a warning: make sure everything is accurate, transparent, and fully documented. Because once fraud is alleged, even innocent mistakes can lead to long-term consequences. Real-life scenario: how this plays out. Imagine two green card applicants. Both have lived in the US for years. Both pay taxes and have families. One applicant had a minor DUI 5 years ago. The other posted a political rant online criticizing US policy. Under older rules, both might have had a good chance at approval. Today, both could face serious hurdles. The DUI might be interpreted as a moral character issue. The social media post could be flagged under anti-Americanism. Neither is guaranteed denial, but neither is guaranteed approval either. That's the new reality: immigration outcomes are no longer predictable, even for otherwise strong cases. Tips and warnings. So what can you do? Review your online presence carefully before applying. Make sure all financial and legal obligations are fully in order. Work closely with a qualified attorney if your case has potential red flags. Preparation and awareness are your strongest protections. Immigration rules haven't just changed on paper, they've changed in practice. Discretion is broader, TPS brings temporary relief, anti-Americanism checks raise cultural concerns, moral character standards are tougher, and fraud enforcement is more aggressive. Every immigrant needs to understand these shifts, because even small details can now decide your future. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for future updates. Thanks for watching Immiscope. See you in the next video.